And it certainly brought Iran to the table more than before. However, beginning a conflict, you had talked about you only wanted unconditional surrender. And
Well,
the MOU doesn't look like unconditional surrender.
well, it really probably is unconditional surrender.
It is?
I think so. Look, they have no military. They're all at the bottom of the sea. 159 ships, that's what they had.
Sure, but they could still menace. They only had these small one Gashti boats or go fast
Look, you
boats that
call it what you want.
menace
I
the
hear
ship.
the JCPOA, the Obama nuclear
Mhm.
catastrophe, which was so bad. When Obama left, he didn't hit their military.
Sure.
He didn't damage their Navy or destroy their Air Force. I destroy the Air Force.
Well,
They're different
how is a
people.
regime change if you have?
Because they're different people.
But you have Khamenei Jr. You still have a lot of IRGC officials there.
They're different people.
All right.
Khamenei Jr. is different from the father.
As Trump celebrates his Iran peace deal, did he also open a $300 billion door that could supercharge the most powerful force inside the Islamic Republic? With sanctions easing and oil money set to flow again, is the IRGC about to get richer than ever, turning battlefield gains into hard cash and long-term leverage? By unfreezing funds and lifting key restrictions, has the U.S. just given Iran everything it needs to rebuild faster, arm its allies and quietly sharpen its sword against Israel? Could Trump's Iran deal leave Mojtaba's regional proxies deadlier than ever, with fresh financing for the same networks that have already fired rockets and drones at Israel? If Israel is safer today because the missiles have stopped, will it be more vulnerable tomorrow, as critics question whether Trump's deal simply buys time for Iran to grow stronger? As U.S. Iran talks move ahead, analysts warn that the biggest winners may not be ordinary Iranians but powerful institutions inside Tehran that already dominate politics and security. Incentives designed to secure peace with Iran could end up strengthening the very force many Western capitals list as a terrorist organization, blurring the line between diplomacy and risk. Senior Iranian sources have told reporters that the Revolutionary Guards are well placed to reap huge benefits from any economic revival that follows a lasting agreement. Since the Iran war erupted on February 28, the IRGC has steadily expanded its internal power, tightening its grip over security, politics, and much of the country's economic life. One senior insider has even called the Guards the real winners, arguing they are now poised to cash in on any peace that relaxes sanctions and restores trade. Sanctions relief, renewed oil exports, and new waves of foreign investment could dramatically expand the IRGC's reach, giving it more contracts, cash flow, and influence. For years, the Guards have built a sprawling commercial empire that stretches across Iran's oil industry, key ports, and national telecom networks. Their business network also reaches deep into shipping, construction, and logistics, allowing the IRGC to profit from, and quietly steer, much of Iran's trade. The interim deal already grants waivers for sanctioned oil sales, giving Tehran extra breathing room while negotiators work on a fuller, more permanent pact. A more comprehensive agreement on the horizon could unlock a $300 billion reconstruction and investment fund, aimed at rebuilding Iran's shattered economy. Reviving Iran's economy on that scale would almost inevitably expand the Guards' already considerable reach, since they sit at the center of so many strategic sectors. Notably, the IRGC's Khatam al-Anbiya arm oversees hundreds of companies in energy and infrastructure, making it a natural bidder for megaprojects funded by any new cash. On top of that, Iranian law typically requires foreign investors to partner with local firms, ensuring domestic players act as gateways for almost all major deals. With so many of the biggest local players linked back to the Guards, the IRGC has effectively become a gatekeeper to Iran's most lucrative sectors. Western firms that return to Iran may discover they are tied to Guards-linked entities, even indirectly, through joint ventures, subcontractors, and supply chains. That exposure risks breaching any residual sanctions that still directly target the Revolutionary Guards, creating legal and reputational headaches for outside investors. Sanctions experts warn that the IRGC now pulls key strings across Iran's oil and trade networks, meaning almost any serious business in the country eventually runs through its hands. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is heading to Switzerland as Washington explores the possibility of a new round of talks with Iran. The visit comes as both sides try to build on the recent memorandum of understanding and keep diplomacy on track. According to U.S. officials, the first round of discussions could focus on a broader agreement covering Iran's nuclear program. However, officials have not yet confirmed whether a new date has been finalized for the negotiations. Trump envoy Jared Kushner is already in Switzerland ahead of the expected diplomatic meetings. The presence of two senior Trump envoys has fueled growing speculation that negotiations could begin sooner rather than later. For now, neither Washington nor Tehran has officially announced when the next round of talks will actually start. Iranian officials had previously refused to attend the talks while Israeli military operations in Lebanon were still ongoing. Tehran maintained that attacks against Hezbollah had to stop before any negotiations could move forward, according to reports. That stance threw the Swiss diplomatic process into uncertainty, despite the recently signed U.S. Iran agreement. However, U.S. and regional sources say Israel and Hezbollah have since agreed to renew their ceasefire, potentially clearing a path for talks to resume. The U.S.-Iran memorandum has created a 60-day window for both sides to negotiate a broader and more permanent agreement. Major issues, including nuclear restrictions, sanctions relief, and regional security arrangements, still remain unresolved. Switzerland is now emerging as the focal point of the next phase of U.S.-Iran diplomacy. The success or failure of these negotiations could determine whether the historic agreement ultimately survives. For now, all eyes are on Switzerland as Washington and Tehran prepare for the next chapter of high-stakes talks. The diplomatic push comes after Steve Witkoff revealed that Iran is preparing to invite the UN's nuclear watchdog to inspect its nuclear facilities. A day after the landmark MoU was signed, a top Trump envoy revealed a major new development involving Iran's nuclear program. Steve Witkoff says Iran may soon invite the UN's nuclear watchdog to inspect key nuclear facilities across the country. The move could launch a major international effort to locate, verify, and track Iran's stockpile of enriched nuclear material. Witkoff disclosed the plan during a private briefing with congressional leaders as implementation of the new agreement begins. U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian have formally signed the Memorandum of Understanding. The 14-point agreement is designed to end hostilities between the two countries and reopen the Strait of Hormuz to normal navigation. The memorandum establishes a 60-day ceasefire period during which both sides will pursue negotiations on a broader final agreement. Trump signed the document during a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris on June 18. Meanwhile, President Pezeshkian signed the memorandum in Iran, completing the process from Tehran's side. The agreement begins with a region-wide ceasefire, aiming to halt hostilities and lay the groundwork for a permanent end to the conflict. Both sides have pledged to respect each other's sovereignty and avoid interference in internal affairs, signaling a shift toward de-escalation. Washington and Tehran have set a 60-day deadline to negotiate a broader final agreement, with an option to extend talks if needed. The United States has agreed to begin lifting its naval blockade, while Iran will gradually restore normal shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has agreed to ensure free and safe passage for commercial vessels traveling between the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman for a limited period of 60 days. The memorandum outlines plans for a massive $300 billion economic development initiative aimed at supporting Iran's recovery. The United States has agreed in principle to discuss sanctions relief as part of a broader and mutually accepted final settlement. Iran has reaffirmed that it will not pursue nuclear weapons, while both sides work on a framework for managing enriched uranium. Until a final agreement is reached, Iran will maintain its current nuclear activities and the US will avoid new sanctions or military deployments. The agreement allows for sanctions waivers that could enable Iranian oil exports and related financial services to resume. Both sides will explore pathways toward financial normalization, including discussions on frozen assets and economic access. Once initial commitments are implemented, negotiations will expand to address all remaining issues required for a lasting settlement. Progress toward a final agreement will depend on both sides demonstrating compliance with ceasefire and maritime obligations. Any final agreement is expected to be submitted to the United Nations Security Council for international legal backing and enforcement.